Welcome to GRE Snacks, snackable episodes about the GRE exam and graduate school admissions. I'm Tyler, the founder of Achievable, and we have an affordable GRE course that includes everything you need to ace your GRE exam. A full textbook, videos on key topics, tons of GRE questions backed by our memory enhancing algorithm, with the built in study planner and essay grader, and full length practice exams. You can try it out for free by visiting achievable.me, and if you like it, the code podcast will get you 10% off at checkout. Now, let's get started. Today, we've got Jason Weingarten from Ivy Coach on the line with us. And Jason, I'd love if you could introduce yourself for our listeners.
Sure, it's great to be back. Jason Weingarten, I'm a senior admissions consultant with Ivy Coach. We're an independent admissions consulting firm. Primarily, we started in the mid 90s, helping students get into undergraduate school for our nation's most highly selective colleges. We did such a great job at that eventually, when these students were looking to go to graduate school, they rang us up again. So we've had a certain generation of success of helping students get to both undergraduate and graduate school.
Yeah, fantastic. And so, as a admissions consultant yourself, right? I feel like you're a good person for today's topic, which is actually one that surprisingly we have not covered yet, but I think that it's a really important one, which is how to shop for admissions consultants, right? I feel like in the graduate school admissions universe, admissions consultants are actually even more important and necessary than they were for undergrad, because it's such a specialized process. But I also think that they're a lot more expensive. There's a lot more kind of riding on it. So how do you kind of like where do you want to start here with this list?
Yeah, so I think that's right. When it comes to applying to college, people, when they were in high school, they had the guidance counselor. You had the person at your school, who was there to help navigate the college application process. Um, that does not really exist for graduate schools. Some
Hmm.
colleges may have someone in the career office that is helping, to navigate the graduate school program, but it's far rarer for students who are applying to graduate programs to have someone at their disposal to be able to use and ask questions and ask for advice and all of that. And so when it comes to independent admissions consultants for graduate schools, I do think that they are just as important for applying to graduate schools, and especially the top schools, as they would be for applying to undergraduate. It's just that in undergraduate you have them at the ready, but you have to kind of go out and
Right.
seek these people for graduate schools. And so when we're talking about who is a independent consultant, what we mean by that is someone that you are paying to give you advice and to assist you in any aspect of applying to a college or university, a graduate program, a pre-professional school, anyone who you're hiring for that help. Some of them are going to have different focuses. Whether it be that they're only doing a certain type of school or only doing a certain tier of school. Some of them might only focus on a certain geography, or they might just only focus on one specific school or program. But by and large, we're
Hmm.
talking about someone that you would hire to help navigate the process. And I should say that even though I do work for a company that does this, and that's my job, and I think that of course we're the best, and I'm the best at this. I'm not going to get into the weeds of talking about us or talking about any other specific company as we go through. That hopefully this is going to be something that as you are listening and you're thinking about who you want to hire, who you might want to bring into the fold and add to your team. Hopefully this is going to be applicable regardless of what school, what program, what type that you're thinking about.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that for sure. Our listeners are not here for advertisements, right? And I think that you've got a lot of practical tips for just anybody looking for these programs. And also, frankly, it's a process that is a little bit. I mean, as somebody who looked at graduate school myself for a little while at one point, like it's a process that it's kind of hard to tell what's what, right?
Hmm.
Like I mean, I'd love if you could kind of go through what are the different services offered and kind
Hmm.
of what are the places that you can get help
Yeah,
from different from one counselor or from different counselors even.
sure. So, I've got the list of kind of 7 things to consider. That's the first one. What are you actually buying? What are you actually paying for? What are the services that are being offered? And I think it's key to imagine, what it is that you actually need and make sure that you are paying for that. Are you, receiving help and you need someone to help you with where to apply and making that list? Is it, kind of the overall, counseling and advice and assistance along the way? Do you need someone who's only going to be there to help edit the essays? Do you need someone who's going to review the complete application? Do you want to include the test prep as part of this overall college? Anything like that, everywhere in between. I think it's important to understand what it is that you want and need help on and what it is that someone is actually providing, what someone is capable of. The best tutors for the GRE, they might not be the best people to turn to for helping to make that college list. The best people to talk to
Right.
for editing an essay, they might not be the best people to help you figure out where to apply. And so being able to really understand kind of the core competencies and what you need and what is being offered, I think that's going to be key to making that match work. So the second,
Yeah, and I also think in general, like, sorry, just
no,
before you move on, um, I've found that almost always you're better served by kind of separating your test preparation from your college counseling or admissions counseling and kind of just having two separate groups for that. Though there are some groups that do both, and I'm sure some of them are great. But for the most part, I feel like those two end up usually being kind of pretty distinct skill sets
yeah,
that and different like expertise areas.
that's right. I mean, I do not help someone with test prep. That is that is not my expertise. My expertise is helping students get into great schools and putting together winning applications. I know who the good test prep people are, but sadly we are not the same person. And I think that's most common that the test prep is pretty much divorced from the actual application assistant.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
So
Great. Yeah. Then
mhm.
what's next on your list?
So the next thing is to actually do the research and to make a list. To figure out, who are those independent consultants that you might want to work with. I think the best place to find these people is online through referrals at different fairs. If you are going to the kind of, fair in your town, the road show at the hotel ballroom, usually there's going to be some of these people from some of the larger companies are going to also have a booth there as the universities will have a booth themselves. I think that that's a great way to find these people to kind of add them to the list. But then also I think referrals can be a great way. It's a little tricky, even though people are very forthcoming about that they received help with the test prep. For whatever reason, people are
Mm,
just not as kind of forthcoming that they received assistance with actually putting together the application. I have no idea why. I wish I knew, but for whatever reason, people are much more willing to talk about, oh yeah, I worked with Tony for my test prep, but they're not willing to say, oh, I worked with Jerry for my actual application essays. But I think if you're close with someone and you know that they're at a program that you're thinking about, I think asking them, hey, did you ask and use anyone? Were you considering people? Usually asking for referral is the way to go about, as opposed to just kind of waiting for someone to tell you, oh, you're thinking about doing test prep. Oh, you got to talk to Tony.
right. Yeah, exactly. And I also think that in general, your admissions counselor is going to be helping you craft your story, right? They're going to be
Hmm.
helping you with your essay. They're going to be helping you with sort of your direction. I personally feel like it's important to try and find somebody that matches your vibe, for lack of a
Hmm.
better word. I know that vibe is a very nebulous idea, but it's really just like you should probably be willing to do a bit of homework because this decision is one expensive, but two it's going to impact your essay and your other parts of your application, which might impact where you go,
Hmm.
right? So, I think it's make sure you do a lot of shopping and maybe even, I mean, I don't know how common it is, because like I said, when I was applying to graduate school, I didn't get this far, right? But how common is it to have like sort of like free consultations or like for lack of a better word sort of like just like phone calls just to kind of get a sense for the people that you might be working with?
I think it really is expected. Um,
Yeah.
you should
Okay.
be able to, if you, let's say, so you made the list and now you've got half dozen different companies that you think and look good, and you've got a recommendation about. They have a nice website, and now you've got these half dozen. You should be able to have some sort of preliminary free initial consultation with these companies to learn about their approach. This is not you getting, free advice at this point. This is not getting, their take on, what chance you are for being admitted to your dream school. This is an opportunity to discuss with them what your needs are, what you're looking for, and to see if you vibe with them, if you make that connection with them. You want to know what it is that they do and how they do that. You want to make sure that you have a sense of
Right. And you also, I think it's a good opportunity to kind of double check their credentials, right?
that.
I mean, I think that's also like I would hope that people aren't lying in this business, but I think it's always good to kind of do your homework on that stuff, right?
Definitely. You want to make sure that the people that you're working with have the relevant experience and the relevant knowledge. If someone has no professional admissions experience, I would personally not want to work with them. I don't think that
Right.
they've had the opportunity to actually be there in the decision chair and to work through the application as you would need to. That is, for me, one thing that I would want to check. You should be able to look them up on their website or their LinkedIn. You should be able to just do a simple search and make sure that they do have good, relevant experience. I think that there's a lot of people out there that they got lucky. They applied to X school and they were admitted to Y program and they graduated and now they're like doing this on the side. Um, they don't necessarily have the
Yeah.
experience. They just got lucky, and now they think that they've got the magic sauce that they can be able to talk to you about, but they don't know why they got lucky. They just got lucky.
Well, right. And it's like, it's confirmation bias and it's a sample size of one.
Hmm.
And it's also, if you're thinking about it, like, the shopping analogy, like if you wanted, I don't know, maybe this analogy is going to be a little weird, but basically, like if you wanted to know how to shop at Target the most effectively, you don't want somebody that like went to Target once and like was successful. You want somebody who worked there because
Hmm.
being on the other side of the table and getting kind of that inside baseball perspective on how decisions are really made,
Hmm.
like what the process really looks like is that's what's rare.
Hmm.
Lots of people went to Harvard.
Hmm.
Not all of them should be admissions counselors.
That's right. Yeah, so you definitely want to make sure that someone has made the decision, that they have professional admissions experience. That's way more important than they attended that school. That's way more important than they have some sort of certificate. You can do whatever professional development to get a certificate online. That to me is not as important as someone who is a former admissions officer who now is working on the other side of the desk.
Right. Exactly. Well, great. Yeah. So then, beyond that, what are some other research pieces that you should do? Outside of talking to them and kind of getting a sense for where they're from.
So I think you should be able to read some reviews and testimonials. Um, I do want to caution that a lot of times on websites, these are just going to say things, they're going to be blind quotes and they're going to be attributed to, Timmy, who went to X university. This
Right.
is from Clara, who is, a member of the class of 20 whatever at, such and such graduate program. You're not going to be able to actually source who these people are, and they're not going to be, very strong testimonials or reviews, and they're going to be highly, 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 highly biased in favor of these are like the best quotes that these companies were able to pull about themselves. So instead of relying on the quote that's on the cover of the website, I think it's also good to look for if there are any sort of testimonials or case studies that are from past clients that seem similar to you. If every quote is from a student who went to a less selective school, and you're looking to go to a very selective school, that might not be
Hmm.
the right admissions help or consultant for you. And similarly, if everyone who's being quoted or all the case studies are, are individuals who are, kind of former engineers who transition and now are going to business school, or they're all like people that did Teach for America that are now all in law school. You don't really see anyone whose profile is remotely close to your profile. Chances are that's also a clue that maybe they don't have the kind of experience of working with people that are like you. And so trying to get an understanding of kind of what realm this company plays in, this individual plays in, kind of what their experience is. I think that's the best that you can get from reading reviews and looking at the testimonials and case studies that are on people's
I
websites.
think in general, um, no, everyone is guilty of this, right? It doesn't make you. It doesn't. Isn't. You're not a bad person, but you're definitely going to put the best reviews that make you look the best on your own website,
Oh, of course,
right? Because that's what everybody does. So,
of
like,
course.
if
I
you have a
mean,
review on
my
there that's like, this was a 4 out of 5, like, then the people who visit your website are going to be like, holy crap, they only have like one 5 out of 5, and then they have a 4 out of 5. That's
that's
all they
right.
got. That's not good.
I mean, when was the last time you
So,
saw the Broadway poster and it had like a middling review, and it didn't say,
right.
the crowd goes wild, 5 stars, right? Of course, everyone is gonna be doing this. That's just why it's not helpful. It doesn't make these
Yes.
companies bad. It just doesn't serve you as the student to say, well, the restaurant says that they have the best, chicken parmesan, so it must be good. Well, no,
Right.
you might want to,
Like that small hometown restaurant that's like world's best hamburger. It's like
yes,
who's the arbiter of this decision?
exactly. And I should also say that you're not going to be able to get in touch with former clients, generally speaking, just because there is a level of confidentiality that is part of all of this. And so sometimes I'll get asked like, oh, hey, have you ever worked with someone like me? Can I get their name and number? The answer is going to be no. I'm not going
Yeah.
to. I'm not going to, say who I'm working with.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, yeah, so that all sounds good on the research front. So then how do you like let's talk about that first phone call that you
Hmm.
have, right? The consultation. How do you make sure you get the information you need out of it? Because I feel like it'd be pretty easy if you're going in kind of unprepared to just kind of like have a glad hands, like, oh, oh, these guys seem nice kind of phone call
Hmm.
and not really get the hard questions answered.
So I think you definitely do want to listen to the pitch, listen to how they're talking about themselves. Um, you
Right,
know,
what they
is
focus on.
exactly. I mean, is it interesting to you? If someone's not able to be interesting when they're talking about themselves, they are not going to be able to be interesting when they're talking about you. And so if you're just getting the bad vibe from a company, then that probably tells you something. If it's not capturing your attention, that's probably telling you something. Beyond,
Hmm.
kind of doing the active listening, I think that there is opportunity to ask questions, and you definitely do want to be prepared during that initial free consultation with a few questions. Uh, I think the questions that I always wish that I'm asked on these calls, first is, are you the person who I'm going to be working there are lots of companies that are large enough that they have a professional salesperson who is taking these calls, who has no admissions experience, no graduate school experience. Maybe they didn't go to college, but they are a salesperson. They are like an expert salesperson. You want to
Right.
know that the person who you're talking to, is an actual admissions person and is either the person that you're working with or that person's boss, but they're like actually a real person. I think another good question that should be able to ask point blank is, I'm interested in such and such programs. Have you worked with students that have applied to those schools in the past few years? You want to make sure that the experience that you're getting is timely and relevant. You don't necessarily want someone who, worked at a certain school 20 years ago and is still giving advice that was relevant a generation ago. I think, similarly to say, I'm interested in applying to, this set of schools. You also want to, talk a little bit about yourself. Here's a little bit about my background. Here's where I went to school. Maybe you have testing that you can share. Give a sense of who you are and say, this is my background. Have you worked with similar students to me in the past few years? If you are someone who's coming from the world of consumer packaged goods and you are asking, have you worked with someone from this field? And the answer is, we've never done that before. That might not be
Hmm.
as good of an experience as someone who says, oh yeah, we have like one or two of you a year. That might be a little bit better of an experience again, so that you're just getting someone who is a better fit for you, your background, and your goals.
Got it. Yeah, and I think just in general, like I would like to hear from you maybe some example questions of things that you want to make sure that you're asking.
So I think those three are the big ones. I think asking, how are we going to work together is important.
Hmm.
Uh, you want to know, for example, if it's essay edit, are you going to be giving an outline? Are we brainstorming that out? How detailed is this out going to be? Any answer is fine to the question. Maybe this is just a strict editor, and you submit the draft, and they edit it to make it readable and grammatically correct. That's
Hmm.
that is a perfectly good service that someone out there might need, just as much as someone who, we're going to work together and collaborate on an outline, and we're going to have multiple drafts of the outline, and eventually we're going to continue to work on multiple drafts of the essay, and we're going to work through and eventually revise it, time and time again. On the other side of the spectrum also, there's someone out there listening that probably is the service that they need, but you want to know what you're getting. So asking, how are we actually going to work? What's the logistics? Am I are we going to have weekly calls or not? Do I have a unlimited time, or are you like a lawyer that's going to be charging me every 6 minutes? Those are the
Right.
types of questions that you want to understand, maybe more from the logistic side of things, as well as, actually discussing the fees and the contract. How much are you going to charge? What is the fee structure? Am I paying hourly? Am I paying per school? Is it kind of like a combination of both? Is there like general advising hours that are separate from the actual application essay editing assistance hours? When are
Right.
payments due? Is there a refund policy if it turns out, a week or two in that, oh my gosh, we're just not a good fit? These are all questions that I think are, good questions to ask so that you understand exactly how things will be able to work.
Right. Well, and also, frankly, I mean, first off, you never want to be in a situation where maybe you budgeted a certain amount of money and then the person you hire kind of blows way past that.
Hmm.
But then second is it also tells you a bit about kind of how they do business, right? To like understand what their policies are. Um, I would imagine most good counselors are, not going to be trying to hang on to your full amount of money if you hate them after 2 weeks, right? But some of them might, and if they do, like that's probably worth knowing ahead of time
Hmm.
before you sign up with them. Those are all really good tips.
Yep. Um, and I think also one of the other type of things that you might want to ask about is to see if beyond the free consultation, you know, it might not be the kind of full refund, but you might want to see is there kind of like an hour strategy session, something a little bit more in the weeds than the kind of introductory initial call to kind of just talk logistics and learn about the company. But is there like a kind of 1 hour strategy session consultation of sorts that is a paid service, but I'd rather pay for an hour and see is that going to be a good fit than to pay for 100 hours and find out that this was a very bad purchase. So you might want to see if you're able to go on a test drive before you buy the vehicle, and chances are the test drive is going to be paid, but you probably want to see if it's going to be a good fit.
Yeah, exactly. And then any other kind of like final tips as we're wrapping up here?
I think, trusting your gut. You're calling it the vibes. I think that, again, it's kind of nebulous. Who knows what we're saying, but you got to trust your gut. If someone told you that you need to work with, X company, and you call up X company, and it's just giving you the heebie-jeebies and doesn't sound so good, you know what? That's fine. You know what? Don't work with them. It worked for your friend. Maybe it's not going to work with you. There's lots of companies out there. Just like your friend, their favorite restaurant might be one that you think is really awful. Everyone has different preferences. Everyone works best differently, and so I wouldn't just kind of blindly go and say that well this company, my friend worked with that company, and it must be good for me. You still want to test it out and try it out and talk and at the end of the day trust your gut. You want to be able to choose someone that you feel comfortable with working, and someone
Hmm.
who's going to be able to help you achieve your goals, that's going to be able to address the unique challenges that you have. That kind of personal rapport, that trust, are really critical in this kind of relationship. And I would kind of put it as like a personal trainer. Maybe you're going to have a personal trainer who does not look like an underwear model. You know what?
Right.
That's fine. But if they're able to inspire you to go to the gym and to increase your weight and boost your cardio and look forward to all of that, it doesn't matter if they are like the fittest person of all time. If they're able to keep you motivated, you believe in them, you're going to follow along their path, and you know that it's going to lead to a great outcome, then great. So definitely, whenever you're hiring someone, and this might be just good for beyond admission, but if you're looking to hire that personal trainer, you're looking to hire that accountant to help you come tax time, you're looking to hire, seek legal counsel for some sort of incident that occurred. You want to make sure that you can, put your faith and your trust in that individual who you're hiring. That you're not just blindly going based on, they say they're great. You actually want to know that you feel that they're going to be the good person for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. This has been GRE Snacks, hosted by Tyler from Achievable with Jason Weingarten from Ivy Coach. And Achievable has a great online GRE course that you can try for free by visiting achievable.me. And if you like it, be sure to use the code podcast at checkout.